Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Communications from Home. It's Tuesday night, September 8th, and this is my weekly evening live stream right here at Star Nations. Thank you so much for joining me, taking the time in your evening or your day, no matter where you are around Grandmother Earth, to be here with us for this spiritual conversation. So, welcome everybody that is in the Facebook live chat and all those that are joining us through the YouTube live chat. Thank you for being here. And also, if you're watching this as a recorded version, thanks for making time for us in your day too. Okay. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the information shared. So the show is all about being brave this evening, being brave in your life, being brave to actually use your gifts. Right? Okay, so some of this stuff this evening is all going to be personal experience, and I'd like to share with you maybe a couple of tips in what to do when you're reluctant to share your gifts. Okay, all right, so let's get started. Rob, let's say hi to the couple people that are in the live chat right now. Hey, Rochelle's here. Hello, Rochelle. Hello, good to have you here, lady. And Deb is here too. Good evening, Deb. Hey, you guys, you two ladies watching it together. Barbie is here too. Hi, Barbie. It's good to have you here. I love your profile, that pink rose. Yep, and that is Rob from Greetings from Facebook Land. So, and from YouTube Land, right? LANDT. It's going to scroll, I bet. I don't know. I'll get there. I can see it in the comments.
Why YouTube doesn't do that, I don't know.
I don't know either. It's one of those quirky little things. There it goes. Maybe it just needs a second to say, oh yeah, I'm supposed to scroll. So before we get too far down the road though, I would invite you to either love or like the live stream. It helps us to be in the newsfeed a little bit more often, okay? And if you have somebody that you are close to, that you think that would enjoy the conversation, or perhaps they've shared something with you that you think that, oh yeah, they need to hear this about their using their gifts, why don't you send the link over to them and they can join us for the conversation, okay? All right, because just before we went on live, I sent it over to my news feed and for my friends to join us. I am sorry, I missed Clara's. Could you put it back up? Thank you. Thank you so much. West Alice, cold, rainy evening. Yes, it is. I'm here up in Toma. Clara's in the state of Wisconsin, same as I am. And she is south of me, southeast of me by probably, 2.5 hours or so, 3 hours, something like that, depending on what side of West Alice she lives on. And yeah, it's rainy and cold here too. Today, I think our high was 47 degrees. Yes, it's cold. We went right past late summer, right into fall, and you could feel it in the air yesterday. That it was fall was here. You could feel it in the wind. You know what I mean? So, and it's been raining all day, all day. Yeah. So here I am up at Star Nations Academy broadcasting, which is kind of nice because it's quieter here than down at my house. My house always seems to be a little, there's always noise in the background, no matter what's going on, whether it's Paul or George or, there's something going on. So, hey, we got to put Rochelle's comment up too, because this is going to be something we're going to be talking a little bit about. Thank you, Rochelle, for sharing, and about being grounded. Yes. Absolutely. We're gonna share another round of why it's important to be grounded. So thank you, Rochelle. All right. So how I even got to this topic this evening was last week. I was getting the shows for this week, the live stream shows for Star Nations, prepped for Rob to help out to get everything created and promoted and that sort of thing. And so I got to my show and I was in meditation, right? I was conversing with my spiritual team and said, okay, so what is up for next week? What should we be sharing about next week? And it was about bravery, being brave. And I said, okay, so what are we being brave about? What should we talk about being brave about? And it was by using your gifts, because there are some of us who, when we have the opportunity, we have a choice to use one of the gifts that we came in with, right? That we are reluctant, we kind of hold back. we decide not to, or we take a baby step. Rather than going 100%, we take a baby step, right? And so they showed me a couple of times when I have done that, when I've held back or when I've taken a baby step and what that felt like as a memory, right? Remember when you did that instead of really jumping in and doing 100%? Do you remember that? It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And what it felt like afterwards. So I don't know, has anybody in the live chats, have you ever done that? Have you ever had the opportunity to use one of your gifts, no matter what it was, and you were reluctant? Either you hesitated or you didn't do it at all, or perhaps you did what I did on those few occasions, and that was a baby step rather than jumping in 100% and just did it just a little bit, And the feeling that you have afterwards, here's this word. It's called regret. It's called regret. Regretting that you didn't do your 100%, or regretting not taking the opportunity, right? And sometimes what we end up seeing is watching someone else, how they actually step in and they go 100% or they go all in, right? And you watch how the energy changes. And sometimes we're jealous, right? Sometimes we're angry with ourselves because we didn't do it. And other times, maybe you were even a little bit relieved that you didn't, because maybe you're more of a shy person and you didn't want to have the spotlight on you or the accolades that come with that, right? So for whatever reason that you didn't use one of your gifts or some of your gifts, is tonight's show is really about taking a look at that and it's about soul growth, really, and taking a look at why didn't you use your gift, or why didn't you use it 100% or more, right? And being honest with ourselves in the reason why we didn't or couldn't, or how we felt about it, right? Because it's in that soul growth that we get to have another opportunity. Another opportunity will come back around so that you can actually use that gift. And hopefully you'll take it, right? Hopefully, I'm having a hot flash. Hopefully you'll have it. You'll have that gift and using it, right? Okay. So one of the things that I get asked a lot by community members at Star Nations or some of my students or clients when we start talking about gifts is like, this is one thing I hear a lot. It's like, I don't think I have any gifts. I don't know what they are. How do you know what your gifts are? How do you know you even have them? Right? And so if you don't know what your gifts are, how can you be brave to use them? And this is what I usually tell them, is that every one of us, when we came into this physical life as that spirit, as that soul, we already had our gifts. And we had them all lined up, identified before we even came here. Which ones we were going to use in this lifetime, okay? Which ones we were going to use and learn how to master them, make them even better, okay? All right. So every one of us has many gifts available to us that we came here to use, that we came here to add to the collective in the planet's evolution, in a soul's evolution, right? Yeah. So when we don't use our gifts, we're kind of delaying the growth, delaying the evolution. Right? Yeah. Okay. So Rob, can we get caught up with people in the chat, please? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Hey, Deb's here. Hello, Deborah. Yeah, she says, I do it a lot. Which one? You use them a lot or you hesitate or don't use them? Which one was it? And Pat's here too. Hi, Pat. It's good to have you here. It's always good to have you in the house. And look who's here. Hello, Julie Hedges. good lady to have in the house. I love your new profile picture, by the way. Gorgeous. Okay, so we're talking about using our gifts. But first of all, let's share a little bit about how do you know you have your gifts when you're using them? What are they? How do you identify them? And I don't want to make it seem like it's, easy, but it kind of is. It's whatever brings you joy, happiness. When you're doing whatever it is, whether it's writing, painting, maybe it's sewing, or maybe it's cooking, maybe it's doing puzzles, right? Maybe it's music. Maybe you like to play the drums or the piano or the guitar, right? Usually when we're using our gifts, those creative gifts in that way, we end up losing some track of time. Yeah. Earth time doesn't exist during that time frame. And so, and you're happy and you feel really good. You feel successful. You feel, you feel enthusiastic. You really do. Okay. And some of our gifts can be as identified as, for instance, I'm really good in spatial stuff, putting together puzzles. All right. Yeah. Connecting dots. I don't even have to see it on paper. I can hear somebody talking about it and I think, oh, those things go together. Right. And so seeing the patterns, right. And I've been that way since I was a kid. One of my gifts is feng shui, honestly. When I was a kid, um, my family was, the chores were very gender oriented. Okay, so my brothers always got the fun stuff, like cutting grass. They never had to do dishes. And so sometimes they didn't cut the lawn when they were supposed to. And so we ended up with really tall grass. And then when you cut the grass, right, it's like making hay. And so one of the things I could help with out there was I could help with raking because it's kind of like sweeping. And so what I would do is I would rake up the dried grass or the grass, and I would start making floor plans big enough to walk through. And so it's like, oh, that doesn't feel good. We're going to move that wall. We're going to put a window there, and this is going to be such and such a room. And then I would literally walk through it. Little did I know that, how many decades later, three decades later, I'd be teaching feng shui and the flow of qi, right? So it's kind of like that. So I'm sure that if you just kind of sat back and say, what do I love to do? What brings me a lot of joy? With Julie Hedges in the house, one of her gifts is singing. One of her gifts is astrology, right? Yeah, so we have more than one. We have many gifts that we came in with. And here's the thing, is being brave to be able to use them. Because sometimes we're not. Honestly, I think that we're probably braver using them when we were children. Yeah. When you were a child, did you find some fun and some? It felt really good to do one of your gifts, and as you grew older, you started using it less and less. Maybe it's because you didn't like the attention. Yeah. Sometimes, as two-leggeds, we can complicate things like you wouldn't believe, right? As two-leggeds, we can take something pretty simple and make it very complicated. And sometimes that's what we do. And so when I was talking to my spiritual team about this bravery thing, it's like, why are we calling it bravery, courage, to use our gifts, right? And one of the things that they showed me was how much attention using our gifts can bring to an individual, right? And so sometimes what we're working on is maybe self-esteem, self-confidence, right? Worthiness. Yeah. Sometimes that's a big one. And the amount that we actually use our gifts as we get older really has a lot to do with our healing our emotional and mental traumas. It's kind of like clearing the path, right? Clearing the path energetically to allow the energy, the frequency of our gifts to flow in a harmonious way. That's feng shui. It's in balance, right? Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you tonight is when I was younger, quite young, I was a competition powwow dancer. I don't know if any of you even know about that about me, but I used to do dance competition, and that really does put you front and center to be judged. But see, I loved dancing so much, and I still do, so much that I wanted to do that. And I'm an extrovert. And so I enjoyed that, being that out there. Okay. Yeah. And I liked my outfits too, my regalia. Oh, I love wearing those. And because it makes me feel special, right? Yeah. And so with the dancing, that took me to working at Stand Rock Indian Ceremonial here in Wisconsin Dells. I had that dancing position there from the time I think I was 12 or 13, 12 maybe, until I was 17. And and I loved it. I did. And the drummers down there, they used to like drumming for me because they could tell I loved to dance. I enjoyed the drumming, right? And so there was a dance called a contest dance. And whoever got the gourd and the rattle, they were kind of highlighted. In other words, you'd have a spotlight on you. And the drummers would try to trip you up a bit, right? Because you had to end when the drumming ended. And so it was good to know the songs so that you knew where they were in the song. All right. And so I got that rattle a lot when I was dancing. Even when I wasn't dancing, I was for 2 years I was an usher, and on the last night of the Stand Rock Indian Ceremonial in the summertime, anybody could go down and dance as long as they had their dance clothes on, right? Their regalia. And so I would, after everybody was seated, 2,000 plus audience, babysitting 2,000 people. I'd run downstairs and I'd slip on my skirt because I would usually have my top on already. I'd slip on my skirt, my moccasins were already on, and got my beads were already on. And I'd head out into the dance ring with the rest of the dancers. And the master of ceremonies would give me the rattle for the contest dance. And so having the spotlight, right? Yeah. And the reason why I'm sharing this story with you is because some people get very nervous and anxious, and when that much attention could be drawn to them, and sometimes that is one of the things that makes us hesitate in using our gifts, right? So if you can kind of ask for help, ask your spiritual team to help you with that. Ask them to help you to be brave, to be courageous, right? And then using the language. Don't try to be, because you'll never get there because you're constantly reaching for it, right? But using those statements, I am brave. I am using my gifts. That kind of languaging helps a great deal. And knowing that your spiritual team is right there with you the entire way. Every step, everything that you're doing. Right? Okay. So we're going to take a look at the comments again, Rob, and see where we left off. As we continue the conversation, Julie says, that's the best definition of identifying your gifts. You're welcome, Julie. You're welcome. Hesitate. Yes. Yes. And see, and for me, Deborah, for me, the soul growth is to identify what's making you hesitate, to go deeper, right? Deeper than the surface and say, okay, so I'm noticing I'm hesitating. Why am I hesitating? Right? Because that way you're learning from it, you're growing from it. And so the next time it comes back around that opportunity, your chances of actually stepping into it is much greater. Right? So thanks for sharing that, Deborah. Rock collecting. Oh, I know, right? So one of the gifts is knowing the stones and feeling them, right? Right, Rochelle, is enjoying looking and holding my rocks, crystals, and gems and actually connecting with them and feeling them, identifying what they feel like. Sometimes we might not know the actual name of them, but we recognize, right? Feel the energy they carry. Yes, that's a gift to be able to sense that. Absolutely. So one of the gifts that we have is our intuition, right? And how we identify what we're intuiting. That's hard to say, intuiting. And so whatever your primary way of bringing in information, spiritual information, your intuition, that is a gift. So whether you're clairaudient, right, clairvoyant, clairsentient, any of the clairs. Actually, we have all the clairs. Did you know that? Yep. We have access to all the clairs. Now, we have our primary and maybe our secondary and our tertiary clairs. And we can use all three of them. But the primary one is the one that is our go-to. That's the one that happens very easily for us, right? Yeah. So thank you, Rochelle, for sharing that. It's a good one. Hey, Gloria's here. Hello, Gloria. Good to have you here, lady. Good to have you here. So, Julie-san, do you have any Petoskey stones? I'd really like to get up there. Yeah. Yes. Yay. Deb, she says, yes, Deb has a few buckets of them, and I have a few. Deb polishes Petoskey stones. See, we're going to connect these ladies together. Those are really pretty stones. Clara says, ask my aunts to help me in fixing a knit sweater, what needed new cuffs and a hole in the elbow. Started it Saturday morning and finished it this morning. Now I'm thanking them for help. Yay. Clara, that knitting thing is a gift. It really is, because I call it spatial. And anytime you can even use one of those patterns. Now, I know how to knit. I don't find it fun. I know how to sew too, but I don't find it relaxing. And one time my team wanted me to knit, and I was reluctant, and I was like, oh, no, I don't want to. We want you to knit. And what it turned out to be is another form of meditation for me, right? They were trying to teach me this. And I said, all right, I'll knit, but I'm not going to make anything. So I ended up knitting. It looked like a scarf, really, and I'd knit it and I'd take it apart, roll it back up, start all over again. And then pretty soon, my mother-in-law was delighted that I was knitting, because she's a knitter from way back. And what she did was she connected me with Keep America Warm. And what you do is you knit rectangles at a certain size. And when you get a box full of them, you send them in to them, and someone else stitches them together and makes them into a blanket. And those get given to people who need a blanket. And so I used to make those rectangles all the time. I haven't in a few years, but yeah, it gave me something to make. And so, yeah, so knitting, that's a good one, Clara. And knowing that you called in your ancestors to help you with it, that is really, really good. Really, really good. Can you take a picture of that sweater and share it with us? That would be nice. Thanks, Clara. All right. Oh, yeah. So you have full access to them, no matter where you are, no matter where they are. They were there with you, showing you the way, right? Yeah, I do the same thing with when we're doing drum making classes. I have one of my spiritual teachers there with me in spirit, and so if somebody's having a problem and I can't figure it out, it's like, come on in, show me, work through my hand, show me how to do this, right? And every single time I've gotten help. That's yeah. So once you identify your gifts, right, and you think, okay, that's something I really enjoy doing. That's one of my gifts. So you have the opportunity coming around for you to use your gifts. Next time, really pay attention to how you feel when you have that opportunity. What do? Do you hesitate? Do you step in? Do you step in and run away? Do you dive in and you say, okay, spiritual team, let's go for it. Show me what this is all about. Help me with this, right? And put your whole being into it. But just take a moment to notice what it was like for you just moments before you either decided to do it or you decided not to do it. Okay? Because it's all about learning. It's all about your soul's growth. And so if you can identify that hesitation, that stutter, right? So that way you can ask, what was that all about? And really look for the feeling, the emotion underneath it. Were you afraid? What kind of fear was involved with it? What caused the hesitation? So that if you can identify it, then you can start working with it and healing it or removing whatever block that is, right? And so you're really consciously being aware of your soul growth. And I tell you what, every single time we use one of our gifts, we're allowing our soul to shine. We're shining our light. Okay? And every time I say something like that, you know what plays in my mind? I hear the song, This Little Light of Mine, right? Yeah, that's what I hear, the song, This Little Light of Mine. So when you're using your gifts, you're shining, your soul is shining from the inside out. And for some, that means you're also mentoring someone else. You're being a role model. So, when you're feeling that reluctancy to step into your gifts or to use them 100%, then, you're also role modeling that, right? Yeah. And that kind of falls into either the reluctant elder or the rookie elder, right? Yeah. You think back in all of the life experiences that all of us have. And that is when we do that kind of trip down memory lane, like I just did with you with the powwow dancing and the contest dancing. Yeah. When did it feel really, really good? And when were you filled with that regret or that hesitancy of the fear that's behind it? It's identifying those things. That's what it means to be conscious. That's what it means to be aware of your spiritual being. Right? Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, and here's another one that I know that is one of my gifts, and that's languages. Yep. Learning different languages. Now, am I fluent? No, but I can. All right. They're saying don't say that. Show them because I'm gonna say, yeah, but I'm not really fluent in any of it. All right. So I have to take a half a step back because when when my dad was Mexican Indian and he spoke Spanish, that was his first language. Okay. And the Spanish he spoke was a Native American dialect. So it wasn't a European Spanish. It was European Spanish mixed with an indigenous language. Okay. And so there was a time when he was actually he was on the path to dying, and I was in the hospital room with him, and there was a technician that came in, medical technician came in to talk to him, and then the chaplain showed up too. So we had two people in the room plus my dad and I, and all of a sudden my dad just started speaking Spanish to both of them. And they're looking at me, and it's like, so here I am translating for my dad, and I don't speak fluent. I'm not even near being fluent, right? But I had enough of the language and also to be that connected to my dad to be able to translate for him. Right. So we got through that conversation, and these two gentlemen, they left, and it was just Dad and I. And I said, "Holy smokes, Dad!" Like, I didn't know I was going to be your translator. And I said, "How'd I do?" And he goes, "You did really good." He says, I was pleasantly shocked that you got most of that, if not all of that, right." And he and I never really had a conversation in his language before. But it was enough of the words and, the gist, right? To be able to get to that. So your gifts, you might not start out with them at 100% all polished up and ready to go, that we actually remember them and we kind of grow into them. Okay. You kind of grow into them and get that, that self-esteem and that self-confidence, right? Yeah, that self-confidence. All right. So, Julie's saying, what a wonderful show. Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you. Okay. So, as long as you had on your boogie box, that's right. That's right. That's why many musicians fall into alcoholism. Extroverts don't make great musicians. There's truth to that, right? There's truth to that. Because you also, I think that there's a fine line there because when you're using a drug of any kind, whether it's alcohol or something else, right? There's a tipping point where your inhibitions have been set aside just a bit, right? So they called it liquid courage for a reason. And so you're able to step into using that gift, music, playing an instrument, singing, right? And feeling the emotions around it. That's what makes you good, right? Is to feel those emotions. When you are not in that place of in between, you're an introvert, and so you don't want the spotlight on you, right? You can sing with the lights off or turn around and face the opposite direction, right? There's some truth to that. There is. Yeah, and extroverts, I can only go by my own experience. Has there been time? But there have been times where I have hesitated to use my gifts, and here's one of the hesitations. Okay, one of the hesitations years ago, is using my intuition. Yeah, I would have one of those psychic hits, right? I put that in air quotes, psychic hits, and I wouldn't say anything. I'd wait to see if it'd come true. Because I didn't want to be wrong. right? Didn't want to be wrong. And so the self-confidence in that was pretty low. And so I had to build up my self-confidence to that. And I remember I was in a class out in California, and we had to read each other's floor plans and sensing the energy from them. And see, I was getting better at sharing my intuition, but I would always send it through a filter. It's like, oh, don't say that to them. Oh, I don't know about that one. I don't know how they're going to take that. Let's see if we can find a different way of saying that, right? And so we were working in small groups, and it was my turn to read one of my colleagues' floor plans. And so I'm running my hand over it, and I'm getting information from my spiritual team. And I said to myself silently, quietly to myself, I'm saying, remove all filters. We're going 100% on this, right? And so oh God, the butterflies in the stomach, and those, oh my God, the anxiety, and that can actually pull you out of it, right? So I'm trying to be calm and nice deep breaths, and so I just shared what I got. Shared again. Now, this particular colleague, she and her husband were actually traveling in an RV, and they were traveling for, I don't know, several years. They sold almost all of their belongings and moved into an RV. They're out of Canada. And so she showed me the floor plan to their RV. And, so what I shared with her was, I said, okay, I don't understand this, but I'm going to say it. There's something that slides. There's something that slides, and something's not right with it. It's like it's not completely broken, but you need to take a look at it. So what slides? And so she goes, oh, it's literally it's called a slide. It's a part of the RV that moves out, right? Okay, so on break, she calls home and tells her husband about it. And so he had somebody take a look at it, and sure enough, there was something that was not right, and it would have broken, and it would have cost them a lot more money if they didn't get it fixed right away. And so they were able to do that. And she shared that with me, it's like, wow. And so that was the last time I ever held anything back like that, because it was proof from my spiritual team, right? That I needed to be more self-confident, and there it was. And so I don't know if any of you ever had anything like that happen to you, the reason why you're holding back, right? And is to identify it, because that's a part of your soul growth. Yeah. So I'm looking at the time. I need to cover one more thing, and it's kind of a big thing with this, but I need a drink of water first. I want something that Rochelle brought up. And that's being grounded. Now, almost every show that I do, we end up talking about this a bit, if not a lot, depending on the show. But it is really, really important. I'm going to even use the word imperative, that we are grounded, centered, and protected. Why? Is because that way we can relax. We can relax into using our gifts. And a lot of times our self-confidence, that bravery, that courage comes from that place of being grounded, centered, and protected. Okay? Because you just removed a couple of variables, a couple of reasons why you wouldn't step into and use your gifts or get past the hesitancy. Okay? Because when you're grounded to Grandmother Earth, you're stable, you're balanced, right? You're connected to her. And depending on what method you use for that grounding, you're also elevated your frequency, your vibration to love. And so only love will come through you. And so that is a way to be able to boost your self-confidence, your self worth, right? Your self worthiness. You start to learn how to love that part of yourself. Yeah. And so being grounded to Grandmother Earth is really important when it comes to using our gifts, especially our intuition gifts. And so that groundedness is really important. Now, depending on what method, because there's a lot of them out there, there's a lot. And it doesn't really matter which one you use as long as you use it. That's important. And most of the techniques, most of the ways of getting grounded, they last about 12 hours. Okay? About 12 hours, depending on what you ingest. And that means anything that you take in, whether it's food, beverage, music, what you read, what you watch, anything that you bring in. If it's a lower vibration, it tends to weaken the field. And that's especially of your protection field. And so, depending, if you don't do it every 12 hours, a friend of mine said, you know, because he can see the auric field and that sort of thing, he says to him it looks like Swiss cheese because it starts to break down. And so every 12 hours is to be grounded, centered, and protected with most of the techniques that are known. Okay. There's a few that last much longer, 72 hours or permanent. And so it's really important. It's very, very important that we use our grounding, centering, and protection so that we can relax. We can relax and be who we are meant to be and use our gifts, right? Yeah. All right. So here is one of the things. Hey, I just saw a couple more people's comments. Rob, can we get caught up with everyone's comments? Hey, Minnie's here. She said, my sister Minnie. She says, hi, just able to get on after dinner. So glad you're here. Hey, and thank you, Minnie, for giving us an update on the wildfires by you in Colorado. It's always good to get those updates and knowing that you guys, you and Rain, and actually, you know, there's so many people being affected by it. So thank you for giving us those updates. I know it can't be easy to see ash falling on your patio furniture and stuff, you know, because it makes it real, doesn't it? Yeah. So thank you, Minnie, for that. Glad you're here too. Julie, yes. Mach 10. Woohoo. Yes. Yes. You know, Julie, back in, I think it was, I got to think of the year now. It was the winter solstice of 2017, I believe. Yeah, 2017. Paul and I, we had a sacred fire going. And it was cold. We were standing out there. We were doing our winter solstice ceremony. And one of the things that I put out there for my spiritual team, for the Creator, is that I wanted to use all of my gifts at 100%. I wanted to experience that in awareness. And I chose Star Nations to be that vehicle. Okay. Knowing that in order to do that, I would have to do some healing, a lot of healing, emotional, mental, trauma healing, right? And yes, I did. But I can tell you this, is that looking back at that, now that it's 2020, I can see where I have grown into that, evolved, that soul growth, right? In fact, right now, talk about Mach 10. Yes, we're so close to getting September Star Nations magazine completed to publish on the 10th. And I have to say that I love creating that magazine. I use so many of my gifts in that production of that magazine, that creation of it. And so, so Mach 10, absolutely, absolutely. And so you can feel it, can't you, Julie? When you're really using your gift or gifts, you can feel it. Yeah, there's a certain. It's not well, we describe it as an emotion, but it really starts with a feeling. Starts with a feeling, we get the emotion, and then our mental mind kicks in to give us the word to describe that, right? Yeah. So Mach 10 is pretty good. Thanks for that, Julie. Rob says Spanish coffee and King Crimson, I'm sorry, is not good. I don't know. Spanish coffee. Coffee is always good. Carol says, hello, I'm here. Yay, Carol. Carol's here too. It's good to have you here. It's good to see you. It's a good profile. The Cubs. Cubbies. Okay. So when you are grounded, centered, and protected, for me, that means that I am available. I am open. I'm ready. Is that even though you may have energy flowing that day that is maybe shocking, right? When you're grounded, centered, and protected, it doesn't knock you off balance. It will affect you. Oh yeah, most certain, but it's not going to knock you off balance. You'll take it in stride. Okay, you'll take it in stride, and chances of you remembering your tools, your what you've learned, asking for help, your spiritual team goes up. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I got a message from, it's a friend's daughter letting us know that her dad had a stroke, right? Had a stroke. And it's okay. I mean, he's recovering. It could have been much worse, right? And he was telling her that it was like he thought he was getting reset, right? Rebooted is what he said. And he was saying that he remembered that he had gotten grounded that day. Now, she, who also took the same class, it was Awakening Illuminated Heart class with me, was telling me that it was shocking to her, shocking, but knew that she weathered it pretty well because she was grounded, because of her Merkaba, right? And so, even though something like that may happen, it doesn't mean that it's going to knock you off your feet, right? Yeah. So that means that we're prepared. And when we're prepared, we can really start using the gifts that we came in with, right? Yeah. Using that compassion, using your intuition, using your voice, no matter what that is, whether it's singing or whether it's public speaking or maybe it's teaching, right? So that you're in that place of being stable, centered, and protected. That means that that your fear goes way down, way down. Yeah. So, Rob, could you put up Julie's message, please? She says, you always say that you enjoy finding that right image to go with my articles. I agree that you do a great job. Well, thank you. Thank you, Julie. And it's fun. It's fun. Every article I get to read like 4 or 5 times by the time the magazine is published. And when I am helping the author of an article find a picture to go with their article, to me, it's so creative. It is so creative because sensing the message, the energy, underlying the article and then matching up a good image to go with it is so much fun. It's so much fun. Sometimes it's a challenge, but I like it too. And yeah, so thank you for actually giving me the opportunity for that, Julie. Julie writes her article. She does Cosmic Conversations, and she gives us the astrology for the month and the transits, and also she gives us some of the history around it, right? And so it's really a very educational piece. And so yeah, to find that cosmic kind of astrology picture to go with it is always fun. So thanks for that. We make a good team, Julie. She writes and I find a picture. She says, ready to be of service, grounded, centered, and shielded. Exactly. You know, Thursday, I'm going to be on Ed Langdon's show, Life Wisdom, as his guest. And the topic is about the Red Road. And some of you may recognize it as the Good Red Road. And so you're going to be hearing some of this again, but from another perspective. But I will tell you this, is that when we use our wisdom that we've gained from our life lessons, in other words, we learned our life lesson, we start applying what we learned, and it's in that application that we start building and shoring up that wisdom, right? And we take that wisdom and then we start sharing it with our community. That's the Red Road. And so when we're grounded, centered, and protected, yes, Julie, we are ready to be of service. We're ready to employ and deploy our gifts. How's that? And then that way we're also shining from the inside out, right? Our soul is shining when we do that. And so can you tell how much I like this topic, this subject? It's one of my favorites because I feel like I am your cheerleader. I'm cheering you on. I'm also a gentle reminder for you to be that grounded, centered, protected being so that you can really use your gifts. And I love it. I love it when somebody shares with me about using their gifts, like Clara did with her knitting. Oh yeah, absolutely. Or when Julie, she has such a beautiful voice. When she uses her voice in her show to do a clearing or to sing a mantra for us, right? Gorgeous. And you can feel the energy shift, right? Or with my sister, Minnie Kansman, when she is teaching about nature, and you can hear it in her voice when she's talking about the nature spirits and the connection to them, right? And the information that they bring. I love it. And I feel like I'm the head cheerleader. And I suppose, that is a good definition for me for Star Nations, to be the steward of this company and to be able to walk this red road with all of you, all of the writers, all the show hosts, the community. I hear from community members about things that they're doing or what they've done. And I'm cheering you on. It's like, yay, that's it. And when I say I'm happy dancing in the kitchen for you, a lot of times it's true. It's literally true. Maybe not so much these days because my leg still hurts. But yeah, it's literally true. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, Julie, Julie's harp. Yes. And when Minnie plays the harp, yes, I remember when she was telling us that the other sisters is that she really liked the harp and she's considering learning how to play. Right. And then I remember when she got her harp, and yeah, you certainly can feel Minnie's happiness and her joy when she's playing, can't you? Yeah. Same way with Rob. Rob producing the show. And I'm so grateful for that too, Rob, because, Rob has, yes, he has his technical expertise. That's for sure. Sorry about that. My husband and his sisters are sending messenger messages back and forth. The group. That's what all the dinging's about. And so Rob is, yes, using his skills through being a IT person, right, to produce the shows. But more importantly, he is blending and combining that with his understanding and love of spirit, because he's holding that sacred container for us, right? But he's also using his gift as a musician, because for the shows that he's producing, he has created our intro and outro music. So, and I smile every time I hear mine. I like mine. It's so joyful, right? I like it. And so we have that opportunity to be able to use our gifts in so many different ways and opportunities to do so. And so I encourage you to be aware of when you have the opportunity to use one of your gifts, right? And how you go about doing it. Do you hesitate? Do you jump in? Do you hesitate and then jump in? Can stutter a bit? It's okay. All of it is okay. All I'm suggesting is that you be aware of it, so that you can identify whatever it is that might be holding you back, or that reluctance to do so you can start working with that and learning that, or healing that next piece and learning the next piece, so that your soul can shine. So I know we're near the top of the hour. I just wanted to share with you about one thing that I'm doing, one of the many things that I'm doing that's coming up pretty darn soon. And you still have time to join me for the Journey of Remembering. That's a class I'm teaching. It's an online class. It is all about creating from the tiny space of your heart. And so I am taking the information around the illuminated heart, and it's blending it with my cultural background. We're going to be talking a lot about the medicine wheel, and creating from the tiny space of our heart. And so we get started with that. I think it's September 20th. It's on a Sunday. And we'll be meeting 6 weeks, 3 hours every Sunday, until we get through all of the information, and creating the very first creation will be activating your Merkaba. And so this first class is going to be actually kind of small. We're only doing 12 people. Yeah. My classes, when I was teaching this in the heyday, my classes ranged anywhere between 12 to 25 people. But we're going to keep this one small, because this is the first time I'm teaching it online. And so I want to have enough time with each person in between classes, so that if you have questions or anything like that, I'm available to you. Okay. So, Rob, if you could put up the Academy link for that class, that would be great. And to put it in the comments, that would even be better. And so I would encourage you, if you're looking for remembering how to create using the tiny space of your heart, that unified field, we're going to get started in a couple of weeks. And so you can come and join us, okay? All right. So I want to thank you guys, each one of you, for being here with me this evening, or it's morning by you, to be here for the live stream show, and to be brave, and to use your gifts to shine your light, right? Yeah. So thank you for being here with me this evening for Communications from Home. And we'll be back next week for Communications from Home, where we're going to talk a little bit more about Star Nations Magazine. I think you guys are going to love this September issue. So thank you so much. Thank you, Rob, for putting that comment or the link into the comments. And so, Bama Mina. That's Potawatomi for until we meet again. Have a nice evening. We'll see you next week, Tuesday.